45-minute lecture on oh, not this class. Well, what I would like to do, though, is to remind you of some of the golden words you have heard about the right and left hemispheres of the brain. The brain, you remember, you carry around.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, somewhat. One of the things that's been really exciting for artists in this century has been a lot of change that has been developing in the attitude of this country, at any rate, toward art. And a lot of that change of attitude has come about because of the discovery in the 60s and the mid-60s and an actual testing ability to see the different processing that the right and left sides of the brain go through as they process information. And to realize that the right side of the brain, which we know still very little about, but is the side that we use when we're doing creative work, when we're really comprehending something, the wisdom side, the intuitive side. This is not something that we can lecture about and evoke, because the words and the talking and the rules and the regulations and the processes and procedures and so forth all say to the right side, go to sleep, fellow, you know, with not a chance. This is the left side, this is the verbal side, and we're really busy taking care of important things. And it is important. Along with the discovery that some of the most important things in our lives are actually processed on the other side, and we can't get at it directly in the way of saying, okay, now right side start working. We did discover we can get to it through play, certain kinds of play, not the kind of play where you're so busy following rules that there's no element of play. You can get through it, you can get to it from boredom, which is one of the most interesting things. That sometimes if the left side of the brain is presented material that's so monotonous and boring that the mind can't tolerate it, then the right side gets a little busy and say, well, now let's see. and
Is that why you doodle?
Yes.
In class?
Yeah.
And you're taking notes and hearing
Right.
all this verbal
And
stuff?
all of this in the pull to fantasy. Not a verbal fantasy necessarily, but something else becomes very strong. And another thing that one of the deliberate attempts to, what was that? I've forgotten that woman's name, Betty somebody who did
Edwards.
Yes. And one of the experiments that she discussed in her first book, and a lot of people have tried successfully, is to just simply repeat something expected endlessly, you know, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and pretty soon the other side will start, or anything followed by, so that where an expectation is just repeated endlessly. Then the left side can't stand it because it's so monotonous. It does not have the kind of information it knows how to process. So it goes to sleep, and when it does, then that allows the other side to come forward and act. So we have troubles when we're dealing with art because we use both sides, and not only do we function with both the right and the left, but we also, in time, function with an integration of them. So there's almost nothing more important in our lives than to have an active arts activity, whether we do it in school or at home or wherever we do it, but to keep that flow going constantly, and not just a verbal imagination, or not just necessarily images of some kind, but just actually working out, allowing notions to come into the mind and playing with them.